think we're live. All right. There we go. This thing's getting them. What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic, whatever day it is you're watching this. Doing a bit of a quick live show tonight, getting the car ready because I'm going to be running in a exhibition class at the NHRA Spring Nationals here in beautiful Baytown, Texas. So basically, I'm getting the car ready and more or less going through the thing, fluid checks and a little bit of everything else. I thought that I had run into an issue with the fueling system with the car. Come to find out, it may have just been a fuel starvation thing. Kind of a weird deal that I ran into, but anyway, I'm going to keep checking it out and data logging it. And of course, every time I data log the car, I can't get the car to replicate the issue. So anyway, that's kind of what I've been working on here lately. But yeah, so it's going to be pretty sweet. Check it out. It's going to be on Fox Sports 1. So FS1 Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're going to be making a couple of hits. So it's kind of cool. Might be able to get you to see your boy running on TV when it's not just, you know, me filming it myself. Should be a lot of fun. It'll be myself and Chris. Nitro Crew is in saying, "Sup, B, got the flex." Like it. So wanted to touch base with you guys tonight, see what y'all were up to, fill y'all in on a little bit of what I'm working on. And again, just nut and bolting the car, making sure everything's good. Thought for a minute that I might have had an issue with the transfer side of the fuel system on these cars. And if you've never messed with a fuel system on a Hellcat, it's a little bit different than an LX based car, like a 6-cylinder, where you actually have a true transfer pump on the passenger side of the car. These cars don't have that. They actually have what is in essence like it's a secondary sending unit. And other than that, I don't know the whole reason why this thing, I don't feel like pulling this thing out of the box just yet. You know, so y'all are just dying to see it, but there's not an actual secondary pump. What it is, well, here, look, I'll show it to you, is basically, this thing's gonna whack me upside the head. Basically what it is fuel comes from the actual primary pump from here. There's that infamous clip that if you don't press it in just right, it'll drive you nuts. Anyway, it basically goes through this thing, and I guess somehow or another it's drawn fuel over or something. Anyway, long story short, this is actually the side that I guess feeds the car. Well, because this whole thing is fed by that big fuel pump. There's no pump in this, it's just a sending unit. And I thought initially that I had an issue with my car, maybe there was a crack in the line or something. It turns out it doesn't look like that was the case. Looks like just the sending unit itself was flaking out. Basically not allowing me to get an accurate reading of the amount of fuel in the gas tank, which can be a bit of a problem if you've got a car that, like these Hellcats, that can yip even at partial throttle. And it looks like the car basically just fuel yipped at partial throttle because it was shown to have more fuel in it than it actually did. So anyway, checked it, tested it today. Everything checked out pretty good. I will do some more data logging on the car tomorrow to try to get to the bottom of the issue, but I cannot get the car to replicate it, the problem that it had. And of course, it has to happen the day before I'm getting the car ready to go to Spring Nationals. So, wow. How much crazier can that be? It's just like watching a Street Outlaws episode where they got to get the car done today or they're not going to make the race and they'll lose the shop or whatever it is. So anyway, that's what I'm up to this evening, but I wanted to check in with you guys, see what y'all were up to and what topics were on your mind tonight. You know, it's kind of funny lately just talking about different Mopar related news items. It's funny how a lot of people just really aren't getting all that excited about Mopar right now. Yeah, say what you will about the new inline 6, that's all well and good, but the problem is we're not really getting a whole lot of jazz from Mopar about that engine combination. Of course, nothing right now on the EV front, which is neither shocking nor surprising, really, to be honest, because I still think that was a little bit of a premature shot across the bow for folks. Maybe trying to get out in front of whatever critics they may have for not being green enough, whatever. Anyway, let me check in with you guys, and then we'll start rolling out from there. Sovereign's in, say what's up. Mod on the job, I like it. Yeah, some of you guys may have noticed I made y'all mods, so that way I've got some folks. If I'm not filming on my computer and I'm doing it on the phone like I'm doing tonight, I literally can't do moderator type stuff. So that's why we have mods. And so anyway, that's why. Let's see. Ronald's asking or saying he's got a V6 Challenger. Do you think the RT, which only has 70 horsepower more, is worth to get it, or should I jump to the Scat Pack because 70 horsepower isn't a big difference? It's all about that torque, brother. It makes about 100 foot-pounds more torque than where you're at. So there's a big difference there. And if you look at that in terms of percentages, it's about 40% more torque. So huge difference there. If you're asking, should you go from a 60 to a Scatty? Yeah, I mean, I would say you'd probably be better off there, but don't necessarily have to stretch the budget to have something that's a lot of fun. 5.7s are a riot to drive, and they're a whole lot less expensive to get. So you get all the noise, you get all the, street performance, if you want to be honest. If you're not talking about roll racing, at least, and you're not taking the car to the drag strip, yeah, the Scat's going to be faster, but just drive a 5.7 after you've driven your V6 and report back with your impressions. I think you're going to be surprised. And you got to remember, 70 horsepower, that's 25% more power than what you've got basically with that V6. That's a big difference. Ronald's also asking, the white Challenger SRT that you had, do you think it was a disappointment because it had the same engine and horsepower as a Scatty? Do you think your SRT should have had at least 550 horsepower? It's a good question. I didn't find it to be a disappointment. The SRT at that point in time was basically the Grand Sport of, if you're to the Hellcat, like the Grand Sport Corvette is to the Z06. And I really liked it for what it was. As far as having more power, if I dropped a little bit of weight out of that car, it would have been a 10-second car, and that's with the stock cam. So I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that no, the car was not a disappointment. I had a lot of fun with that car, and I learned a lot with that car. So I would say that at the end of it all, if you're looking for something that has a real strong return on investment in terms of just being able to use the power that you bought, the SRT or the Scat Packs are really good, especially on a drag radial. Eric saying, what up, Professor B? Got the flex. Ronald's also asking, instead of the cards you have, why didn't you just buy a ZR1 Corvette brand new? I've owned 3 Vipers, a Mark III Cobra, a lot of really fast cars, man. If I wanted the ZR1, I could have picked up a ZR1. The reason why I didn't buy it, number one, is I didn't want one. I didn't want another Vet, didn't really want another car like a Corvette. And if I would have been able to pick up a ZR1, I'd have really been looking at Vipers more than the ZR1. If you want to modify something, the ZR1's a lot of fun. But if you're talking that kind of money, the problem is that when do you ever really get a chance to use that car and really use the power? If anything, I wouldn't have gotten a ZR1. I've just gotten a Z06 and put a Maggie on it with a cam and called it good. Make about 8 bills to the rear wheels and have something that would be basically bomb-proof in terms of durability. Chuck is in. What's up, man? Hilton Mode is in. What up, B? What up? Be honest. Like, I would lie. Do you think cars that are over $300,000 are actually worth it to buy? Sure it is. Absolutely. Because, look, you're putting an arbitrary number on something. Is $300,000 a lot to you? To some people, $300,000 is not a lot of money to spend on something that they really like. I mean, look at all the Mecum auction cars. You've got a ton of those cars that people are willing to spend huge dollars for. Look at all the Mopars that go for $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. McLarens, Lambos, and the like. I mean, if money is what is the mark of delineation for you when it comes to this, this isn't where you need to be, man. The reality is that, okay, let me put it to you in other terms. Is $25,000 too much to spend? Well, it depends on what part of the world you're from and what part of the world you're in. Because, if you're broke, you ain't got 25 grand, you ain't got 300 grand. You might as well be the same distance from one to the other. Or if you just do not have the means to get there. The other thing is that a lot of times $300,000 cars, like some of the Porsches, the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, yeah, those can end up going up in value. McLaren F1, anybody? There's a lot of cars like that do end up going up in value, which is weird when you think about it. But it would actually be better for you to buy the $300,000 car than the $80,000 car, because $80,000 car might lose half its value in 10 years, and the one at $300,000 could gain money. So it's actually a better financial investment, not every time though. Oh, Chuck's checking in saying thanks for chatting earlier. Absolutely, I'm sure that Barton shifter will made up well my TR6060. Better believe it. Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's one of the cleanest mods you can do to those cars. Like I say, I almost consider them mandatory. Sovereign saying Scat. Yep, Scat's a lot of fun, dude. I love those cars. Chuck saying, hello, Sovereign. Sovereign saying, hey. Hemi Dad saying the future EV talk is selling a lot of V8s. Well, here's one of the things. The problem is that, yeah, the future EV talk is selling a lot of V8s, but they're not doing anything to sell a whole lot of EVs, that's for sure. No hype, no pomp, no circumstance, nothing driving that narrative right now, and it makes it really tough to, I don't know, get behind a brand that is stale and stagnant with its current offerings and, well, basically sliding and being non-existent with its future offerings, at least for bringing up some kind of a, for building up some kind of hype behind them. Sarah's asking, was the 6.4 4.25 horse? Yes, it was. Ronald's asking if I would buy a used Ferrari or Lambo for $150,000. It would depend on the used Ferrari or Lambo. The problem with some of those cars is that I'm just not into them. They don't do me a whole lot of good to just look at. I will say though that the Ferrari GTO is probably one of my all-time favorite cars, and it's one of the lower powered contraptions that they put out with, but really well balanced, but damn good looking. And sorry for any purists out there, but I would have to figure out a way to put turbos or some other thing on that car just to get it to run the way that it looks. Sovereign saying Lambo for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, a fully kitted out Countach wouldn't be too bad. Sovereign saying $150 for a used Lambo seems high. It kind of is. But I mean, again, it depends on the Lambo. I mean, you're looking at a Mura or something like that. Maybe. Roseanne saying, hey, from Minnesota. Got the ball guy with the shades and a flex. I like it. Jack saying, another night, another stream. Absolutely, brother. Slash is in saying, sup. Chuck saying, the text my local performance shop gave me an awesome tour last fall, and I chat with them sometimes. They want to bring my Challenger RT Plus shaker to 5 bills naturally aspirated. You can. The problem with getting a 5.7 to 500 horsepower naturally aspirated is, well, I mean, you can definitely do it. It's just pistons and, probably at that point, porting the heads, an intake manifold, big O cam, and long tube headers will get you awfully close. I mean, you can definitely get somewhere in the 450, 460 range if you really work at it. Sovereign saying GTO is nice. For sure, GTO is nice. I've always really liked that car, and the funny thing about it is that you never really heard of it. You never really, I don't know, it never really got the pub I felt that it deserved. And if you don't know what a GTO is, it's, well, just look it up. It's just a badass car, in my opinion. Jay's asking, bro, what shot of nitrous do you think I should run on my build? Remember, I'm the Chrysler 300 Hellcat built 5.7, though. Man, I don't know. What are you looking to do with the car, man? I mean, if you've got a built bottom end and you want to run a standalone nitrous system with a Nitrous Works controller running everything off of injector duty cycle, standalone pump, standalone, obviously controller, basically full-on standalone system, I would do a progressive 175 or 200 shot if you've got the bottom end to take it, and you've got a tuner that can tune it, and don't forget to go colder plugs. So that's, again, when it comes to nitrous, here's the one thing. I mean, everybody forgets with nitrous, there's a lot of maintenance that comes with nitrous when it compared to other forms of, power adder. And the reality is that you've got to swap out your solenoids once a year without fail. Make sure the bottle's at the right temperature. Make sure you've got fuel in your fuel cell. We would wire them on the standalones. We wired the arming switch to a Hobbs switch for fuel pressure. So there's some pretty sophisticated ways you can do it. I wouldn't don't take nitrous for granted. Don't just throw nitrous on one of these newer cars and pretend or think that it's all going to be good, even with a built bottom end, because you got to remember you're dealing with cars today. Think of it like this. You've got a 392, perfect example of this, making basically 500 horsepower. That's well over a horsepower per cubic inch, right? These cars are making race car power levels with metallurgy that hasn't changed in 60, 70 years. So just know that coming into the conversation, even with a built short block, you're going to have some limitations. Again, build the block for what you're going to be using it for, nitrous in this case. Open up the ring gaps, make sure you've got enough clearance there. Run the right nitrous controller, the standalone system, and everything else that goes along with it, and you'll have a great experience with nitrous oxide. If you decide to go cheap and you just want to run a dry shot, you're going to be extremely limited in the amount of power that you're going to be able to run. I would still obviously recommend bigger injectors no matter what. Have the car tuned on nitrous by somebody that speaks fluent Mopar and that also speaks fluent nitrous oxide, and go that route. I try to caution people with nitrous, because if you don't do it right, you'll break not just the engine. Sometimes the engine's the least of your worries. You've got transmission that you have to worry about with nitrous oxide, because the torque hit is real hard. I mean, if you think a turbo comes on hard, or if you think a root supercharger comes on hard, tag something with a $150 shot from basically a 3,000 RPM giggle button, and you'll figure out real quick what a hard hit feels like, especially if you start running 200, 300 shot of nitrous. You really get into some big boy power adder numbers with those things. It gets creepy real quick with how hard that thing can start hitting and tagging driveline bits. So big fan of nitrous oxide, love nitrous oxide. In fact, one of my funnest times at the shop was when I would do a nitrous tune on a car, or basically have a car in there for tune validation for nitrous. So I like it a lot, but also you got to respect it a lot. Other rules with nitrous: you purge your nitrous every time you shut the car down. You unhook your nitrous every single time. Don't follow the protocols with nitrous oxide and pay the price. I've seen intake manifolds explode on more than a few occasions. It's not a pretty sight. That's also the reason why you have to change your solenoids out. Solenoid starts leaking, starts allowing nitrous to flow into the engine, especially if you didn't unhook everything like you're supposed to. You get this real slow trickle of nitrous. Next thing you know, you turn the key on, go to fire the thing up, and kaboom! Real expensive shrapnel goes flying all over the place. Definitely not a good start to your night. Let's see. Sly's saying the newest Vets are some of the sweetest looking rides on the road. There's one. So my favorite color is that Zeus blue or whatever, or Zeus brown, whatever that is. But there's a blue that's really pretty with that body style that for some reason, I'm usually not like a like the newer Corvette, I'm really hit or miss with that car. But again, that Zeus color is freaking amazing on that car. Just with the body lines of that car with that color are fantastic. And this blue is really pretty too. So I get it. Some are saying, I popped a hood on a Lexus the other day and noticed something on the positive battery terminal. I've seen corrosion before. It's usually white or green or brown. What I saw was reddish pink. What is that? Usually if it's reddish pink, if they had one of those red felt things underneath them, that can sometimes discolor that corrosion. But if it's red, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell you why it would be red, other than if it's leaching out the color from one of those little pads. Because that lead oxide or whatever that crap is, it's always white. No, Sovereign saying I never sprayed anything on the terminals for anti-corrosion. If that's the case, no, it's a Duralast battery. Not sure. But yeah, just keep those terminals clean. You should be in good shape though. Chuck saying my list for my 500 horsepower journey is cam kit, 392 intake, headers, 3-inch catback, and a tune. 10 grand is better than 5 more years of payments. So that will get you right at 400 horsepower-ish to the rear wheels, depending on who tunes it, on a Mustang dyno. And a chunk of that power is actually coming from that 392 intake. So that is, the headers will help you. The 3-inch catback, kind of hit or miss on that in terms of my opinion of it, just because you can sometimes run into some clearance issues. But yeah, the headers, good cam, and a real solid tune will definitely get you there. You might need a little bit more cam. Tighten up the LSA though, so you don't lose any torque. Problem is, you start messing with that, and then you start to run into potential drivability issues. So, but I think you'll be in good shape with the setup that you've got, and you'll at least be at 392 power numbers. We've seen plenty of 392s only make 380, 390 to the rear wheels. And I know that Alex just got through running 157 car, 6.4 intake, long tubes. I think it was like a 220, 226 cam, something like that, 223, 226 type of a cam. A little bit tighter lobe separation, but it worked well for that 5.7. And again, it made about they ended up making like 407, which is like exactly what you'd expect the 392 to make. So, like if you look at it from that point of view, it's pretty close to making 500 horsepower. It'd be about a 465, 470 horse motor at least to the flywheel, which is stout for 345 cubic inches. But yeah, that'll get you. I mean, it'll be a riot to drive. Will saying, hey B, what up? What up, Will? Saying I found a 2022 5.7 with Brembo brakes and upgraded performance suspension. Where would I start to add a little bit more power? Well, you got to put a tune on it first and foremost, or else you won't be able to do anything else with it. So you're basically your cover charge is that tune. Once you get the tune, or at least the unlocked computer, I should say, so you can tune it. But long tube headers and what will be your first ticket, no doubt about it. And then from there, it just depends on what your budget's looking like. The headers and the tune will help that car out quite a bit. You can go with whichever catback you like the sound of. They're all going to perform the same. And from that point, it just depends on really how you want to spend your money and how much money you got to spend. So if you want to go positive displacement supercharger, there's that route that you can go and really wake the thing up. Or just go tune in long tubes and have a car that's a lot of fun to play with on the street that isn't ever going to give you any real headaches in terms of parts fatigue and things like that. You just get the car out and have a ball with it and enjoy it. If you want to go with a 392 intake, again, that'll pick you up another 15-ish horsepower. I know some guys have talked like 20, 25, but 10 to 15 is kind of a safe number for if you want to try to go off of dyno numbers and things like that for what it'll gain. But somebody's saying that Z Automotive doesn't make the controller anymore, and so that's a real bummer. So controlling the SRV valve is the whole reason why you'd put that intake on the car to begin with. But aside from that, keep the stock intake. It's actually pretty darn good. And like I say, you can get the car to a pretty fun level just by doing that. Shift is in saying, what up, B? Oh, wait, hang on. We got the right order now, so you know it's coming up. Bald guy with the shades and the flex. Yeah. I like it. Got a mustache hair that's going up my face. Ronald's asking, if I buy a Scat pack, what would I have to do to have Hellcat power? Trade it in on a Hellcat. And I'm not kidding when I say that. Don't do that. If you want Hellcat power, buy a Hellcat. If you want Hellcat-like power, you're not going to get there with a Scat pack, not the way that you're thinking. And certainly not for the money that you think that you're going to be saving. It doesn't really work like that. It's a very stout engine, 392, awesome car, but no, if you want Hellcat-like power, get you a Hellcat. The Hellcat starts off making over 700 horsepower. And for whatever money you would spend on the Scat pack, you could have bought a Hellcat, I promise you, by the time you're done putting modifications into the car, especially to try to get it to Hellcat power numbers. And there's a huge difference between making 700 horsepower to the rear wheels with a centrifugal supercharger versus 670 horsepower to the rear wheels with a barely breathed on Hellcat. It's that 392 with a Pro Charger, even at 700 horsepower, is going to, that Hellcat will run out of that car's life. So don't let the horsepower number dictate really where you're going with that. Summer Night saying no felt. Oh, talking about that battery, no felt. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know why it would be red. Why would it be red? It's a Duralast, lead acid. Is there any red like paint or red stickers or something like that around there? Again, it just, to me, it seems like it's leaching color out of something. Yeah, you just Instagram me the picture and let me see what you're looking at. There's no pads on the terminals. Cool. Be right back. Cool. Just know I'll have to respond to you because I can't see it when I'm doing the show. Ship's asking, can a tune help on low speed, basically parking lot throttle sensitivity for a 392 M6? Yes. You got a 14 M6 ZL1 low speed, is so smooth, feels like an auto and does not stall or buck like my 392. It absolutely can. A pedal commander can also help with that a little bit too. Just got it, bud. I'll check it out when I get a chance to. Let's see. Greg saying, thanks for all the best Mopar info on YouTube. Thanks, man. Drove my new Scat pack shaker with a 309 gear. It's awesome. Happy with trading my Hellcat for the 392 again. Back to Auto Trends as well. Tons of fun. Thank you, B. I'm telling you, you will be able to use, again, all the power that you bought. And guys, this is no joke. Watch for this. You're going to start seeing more and more Hellcats up for grabs. And in fact, I'm going to be putting a video together that is going to be documenting all of these issues that I've been running into with my Hellcat. These are all problems that I never had with the Scat or with the SRT. You know, with one thing being after another, creating problems with this car that barely has 20,000 miles on it, regardless of age. Yeah, there's a lot of guys that are actually former Hellcat owners that started off being former Scat Pack owners that are now returning Scat Pack owners just because they got fed up with all the issues, headaches, pain in the ass problems that can come, in fact, with owning a Hellcat. And, you know, guys, I'm telling you, there have been times, I am not, and y'all have heard me before, but for you guys that might be newer to the channel that are on tonight, there have been quite a few times where I have been more frustrated with the Hellcat and have actually started looking at 1320s as being the next car that fills the spot in the shop. Now, granted, obviously that never took place, but it's part of the reality of owning one of these Hellcats. When you have a situation where the car is practically unusable on the street from just a playing around point of view, unless you're cool with clipping speeds of 120, 130, 140, 150 miles an hour in very short order, which these cars do, then they're really not fun anymore. They're really more frightening, especially with any serious level of modification that's been done to them. They get spooky really quick. And I go back to this. A couple of nights ago, this Sunday, I had taken out Sierra, which is the 72 3/4 ton GMC. It's got a 400 small block in it, fries the tires, whole lot of fun. Party's over by 70. It's a great 8th mile truck, but the party's over by 70 or 80 miles an hour in that thing, and that's okay. It makes all the right sounds. It lights the tires up, does everything super cool. Took Foxy out, took the Fox body out, and again, just to get everything some exercise. Not that the party's over by 80 miles an hour in that car, but rolling through the gears, first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, kind of roll into it. Yeah, by 80 or 90 though, I mean, you're already in fourth. The only thing you're doing is extending the car at that point. You're not going to still be wide open going into fifth gear. Plus it's light and it's flickable, so I can basically hoon that thing around at will, and it's a riot to do. It's fun to brush up on a skill set with that car. And then I drive the Hellcat. Well, the Hellcat, the problem with that thing is that it, sketched out with a fueling issue. But that car just basically not even burying your foot in it at all, at half throttle will get you to 120 and you don't even really realize it. So that's the weird part about it. Greg, thank you very much, man. A huge super chat, brother. Man, I didn't have a question to go along with it, or a comment, but my man, thank you very much, bro. That's humongous. Bro, I don't know what I did to deserve that, but thank you very much. But man, still speaking on what Greg, kind of the topic that Greg had brought up again, bro, super generous. Thanks, man. You drive the Hellcat, and again, the sense of acceleration isn't there. The sense of speed isn't there. And remember that speed is subjective, velocity is objective. Big difference between the two. And there's times where the Sierra, which would struggle to run, a low 14, or rather a low 15, high 14 second quarter mile, if it would even do that, I mean, for sure it'll run mid 15s. It's done that on the Draggy, or actually low 15. Anyway, that truck is just a whole lot of fun to drive. Foxy, again, that car made right at 300 horsepower to the rear wheels and right at 3 1/4 torque to the rear wheels on a Mustang dyno, so an eddy current dyno. The car's probably about a 320-ish horsepower, maybe 330 horsepower to the rear wheels on a very polite dyno jet. So, a mid to high 11-second car. But that car is just a ball to drive, and it feels fast. It feels punchy. Even though the thrust isn't there for a very long time, it feels like you're going a lot faster than you are. It's a lot more entertaining, and that's really more to the point. Where a Hellcat compared to a Scat Pack is very much the same way. Scatties, on a good tire, on a really good day, those are 11-second cars. You're comparing that to a car that is significantly faster, but not significantly more entertaining to own. And as a matter of fact, the fact that the Hellcat is, seemingly at least, so much easier to make go significantly fast makes it all the more tempting to ruin the car even further by making it even more is the right word anxiety inducing the right way to put it? When you take your Hellcat out, it's not uncommon to accidentally hit 110, 120 miles an hour, and you're just kind of tipping into the throttle. You want your experience to get to that speed to be entertaining, not surprising that you just happen to be there. And that's where guys started to lose their interest in their Hellcats. That's where guys got real disenchanted with the notion of having all this power without all of that power equating to a lot more entertainment value for the dollar. So then they started getting rid of them. And this is something that, I started seeing a trend on probably, I'd say about 2 years ago at the most, year and a half for sure. And the reason why, you get to talking to these guys and they say, look, man, the Hellcat's just not fun anymore. It's cool in small doses, but the reality is living with it is just not as cool. Plus, you've got all these other things that can potentially go wrong. You've got inconsistent tune. You've got a car that is very susceptible to issues with fuel quality. And the list goes on and on. And guys, especially when they start taking their cars to the drag strip and they find that they are not, that the car is doing a whole lot of work for them, but that there's still a lot that they have to do to get that car to go down the track. And if they run up against somebody with a really well-sorted Scat pack, they will be chasing that Scat pack all the way down the track. I know this because I did that to a lot of Hellcat owners. So when you look at it from that point of view, it's not surprising that more and more guys are sticking with Mopar, but you're seeing them get and move away from the Hellcat platform, and a lot of them are really happy with that decision. And who can say that they're wrong in that? If you're not roll racing the car, and let's be real, probably not the best idea to be roll racing these things anyway. And you're just out playing with the thing and enjoying it, it's real difficult to beat the Scat Pack in the miles per gallon value proposition. So anyway, good deal, man. I'm stoked for you, brother. Sovereign said he must have been smoking something that's actually green. He thought it was red. I'll send you the Instagram anyway. Cool. Ronald's asking if I will let my hair grow out again someday. Probably will. I'm probably going to grow a skullet, which is basically a Benjamin Franklin style mullet, but you just got your dome up top. We'll see, but that's probably the route that I'll end up going. Marco's saying, get a vet. I tell you something, I'm still kind of kicking myself in the butt a little bit for not getting a C7 Z06. I really like that car a lot. I like driving that car a lot, especially with a manual transmission. I wouldn't get one with an automatic. I don't feel like they're really in their right element with that transmission, but man, with that 7-speed, Alex had one and I loved driving that car. And it wasn't even just because we're not out there banging on the thing. It's a small pulley and a cam, and it made really good power. It felt a lot like driving one of my Vipers. It really reminded me more of that than anything else. Probably the reason why I liked it so much. It was like having my Viper, but with way better ergonomics. So at some point, I'm not saying it's anytime soon because I don't know that I'm ready to invest in a bunch of Bermuda shorts and khaki shorts. Bermuda shirts and khaki shorts, but I do have the New Balance, so at least I'm going there. And but no, seriously, if the right vet came along, it would be tough for me to pass it up. But they would have to be later on down the line. And again, Greg, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Oh, Chuck's saying that's why I'd rather stay NA for the street muscle. Saying the performance make you feel more like you're a part of it. Yeah, and let me just, for the guys that are like completely bamboozled by why we would be talking about Scat Packs over Hellcats, The reason for that is because the Scat Pack feels when you drive it like it is a very snappy, naturally aspirated engine. The Hellcat with the stock tune feels like it feels like a Scat Pack with about a 490 cubic inch big block with no compression in it whatsoever. It just feels softer, and it will, because number one, it's a smaller engine, and two, it's got a significantly lower compression ratio, but it's going to feel softer than the 392 at partial throttle because it's softer at partial throttle. And it only wakes up when you tip into the throttle. Now, that you might say, well, you're just a tip of the throttle away. Yeah, except the Scat Pack, and I've literally raced every Scat Pack combination just about that's out there, and just about every Hellcat combination that's out there, at least in the 8 to 850 horsepower range to the rear wheels. And I gotta tell you, a well-sorted Hellcat but with a stock gear versus a really well put together 392 with a stock cam, or with one of my small cams in it, you would be really hard pressed to tell the difference between the two for the first couple of gears. That's how strong the 392s are. Now, obviously, third, fourth, fifth gear is a little bit different story, but I mean, when you've got that much snap and that much power down low, it's a lot of fun to drive. And it was funny because the first time I drove a Hellcat, let me think about it. The first time I drove a Hellcat down the drag strip, I was surprised that it was making all the same sounds as my SRT, and it didn't feel any different than my SRT going down the drag strip. This is a car with a 262 gear at the time, but it had, I think it had a couple of bolt-ons and maybe had a tune on it. This was early before transmission tuning was really part of the equation too. So that's another reason why it probably wasn't as fast as you would have maybe have expected it to be. And myself too. But I'd driven them on the street, I data logged them, I've load tested them, but I never raced one, took one to the drag strip. So had a customer that wanted to get a couple of passes out of on the drag strip out of his car, as an out of town guy. Said, no problem, I can get that taken care of for you. I mean, easy peasy, right? Well, it was just funny because it was just like driving my car, and yeah, the car was faster. I think the car went like a 1050s or something like that. And my SRT was running 1120s. So yeah, on paper, the Hellcat was faster. And yeah, I guess you could say it was faster. You could feel the difference at about, I'd say about the 8th mile mark. I guess is when I was like, yeah, I guess this feels pretty good. But it wasn't overwhelming. And so again, that's why a lot of Hellcat guys, they go from a Scat Pack, get a Hellcat, driving experience is all neat and everything, and then they figure out, man, I just can't use the power that I've got and don't feel like playing with it in 500 horse mode, so away it goes, and they get their Scat Pack, and it's a lot of fun. Some are saying, wow, Greg, nice. Yeah, for sure. Some are saying, Greg's the MVP tonight. Yeah, he is. Marco's saying, time for you to get a C7, bro. I'm telling you, man, I should have bought Alex's car. I really should have. If I'd have been smart, I'd have bought the one that I should have bought the one that I fell in love with. Hilton saying, 6-speed Scat has got to be a blast to drive. They are, but you need to do there's a couple of modifications that I consider to be mandatory. One of them is a Barton shifter. That makes a huge difference. The other one is the clutch restrictor removal, which is there's this little flow restrictor in the clutch line that you need to remove, so that you get actual control of your clutch. And once you do that, the cars really are a lot of fun. In fact, I mean, for you guys that don't know the story, there's very few cars that I missed when they left the shop. When you work at a shop, the cars, it represents a ticket. It's not like, it's not just a number. That car is somebody's pride and joy, and we treat them like they're, basically royalty. Some of these cars, you would think that they were. But sometimes there's cars where you just really kind of, get a little bit smitten over. And one of those cars was a 2014 Candy Stripe 6-speed Challenger. And for what you guys, if you're not familiar with the Candy Stripe, what that means is that it's white with red stripes. And so you had the Candy Stripe RT, which is the 5.7 cars, the Signature Series, which were white with the red livery on the sides. And then you had the Candy Stripe SRTs, or in this case, it would be an SRT, but it'd be the Candy Stripe 392 cars that were white with red stripes. Never thought I'd be a fan of that paint scheme, white with red stripes, but for whatever reason, this thing must have winked at me when I walked through the door one day, because I fell in love with it. And it was one of these cars where it was just a joy to drive. And, when we did the load testing or the initial data logs on the car, we're not out beating on the car. We're just making sure that the thing is, for lack of a better way of putting it, fit for whatever we're going to do. In this case, we're putting a Pro Charger on it. And before the Pro Charger or after the Pro Charger, either way, that was one of the cars that I was just kind of bummed out about. So, one of my all-time favorite cars was actually a 6-speed Challenger. Oh, Sovereign's talking about the Scatty. That's been the most well-rounded experience for an NA option. Punches low without the need of boost. Big O 6.4. And listen, one of the early videos that I put together was basically me creating an argument that the 6.4 was the best engine that Dodge had ever released. And I still, in many ways, stand by that. For no other reason than this. I mean, yeah, the Hellcat's great. The Hellcat is really good, though, because the transmission that it's bolted to is really good, too. In that case, it's the Hellcat powertrain for the win. But part of my argument, and I can't remember if I brought this up or if I leaned on this as much as I should have in that video, but, the 6.4 brought what is, in essence, old school 426 Hemi, if that engine means anything to you. It brought what you would have wished that engine would run like, and it brought to you what you wished the power that 426 made. It brought that to you in real life. It actually made the power that the 426 couldn't make, but it did so in a very mass-produced manner. I mean, there were a grand total of 15,000 Hemi cars made from 1964 to 1971. I would say there's probably 15,000 392 cars just made in 2016, So that'll give you an idea of the scope of scale here. But to me, that thing is amazing, and it does an amazing job, and it does exactly what it was designed to do, which is to get a barge to go from 0 to really fast in a very small amount of time. So, I'm a big fan of that engine, and I still to this day think it's one of the best engines ever. And besides, we wouldn't have a Hellcat engine to talk about if it weren't for that 6.4 liter. So there's that too. Very well optimized for the street, no doubt about it. Sovereign saying Scats are really damn optimized. I think absolutely they are. Sovereign saying, I think Racer X needs to get a 5.7 and boost it. Yeah, I would agree with that. There was a time where I was, and I still am, I just don't really have the time right now to devote to it, but I would really like to do a 5.7 build. And I'd really like to do a 5.7 build because it's, I guess, an underdog, which is weird to call a 13-second car an underdog. But I think there's a whole lot being left on the table with that 5.7, and nobody really explores it because there is the 392. I'm exposed to the truck world quite a bit. Those trucks are freaking nasty fast, and there's some things that I can do with a 5.7 that'll make it launch really hard and give any 392 all it can handle and then some, especially at the drag strip. So, you know, look, one of the first cars I ever fell in love with was a 5.7 Signature Series. And to that point, I still to this day think that, you know, if it weren't for that car, obviously, number one, wouldn't be where we are now with the 392, or we wouldn't have had the 6.1, which is the car that really got me into wanting a Challenger, by the way. It was a black with silver stripes on CCW wheels, iBox springs, SRT8. That car was stupid looking sweet. So anyway, but yeah, that's pretty much, yeah, I'd like to see him do it. I'd be happy to help him with that as well. Ronald saying, would you ever buy a convertible Challenger if they sold them that way? I'm not really a drop top guy when it comes to cars. If something's going to have a removable top, I want it to be 4-wheel drive. I've owned convertibles, or at least, let me think, a convertible with the Cobra, obviously not having a top at all. It's a roadster. But I like small cars as a convertible, S2000, Miata, things like that. Big cars, though, I can see where it would be cool. I'm a big fan of like big cars, like Cadillacs, Lincolns that are drop top. Just big drop top cruisers are sweet. But I'm not a big fan of performance cars as a convertible. So, not in the respect like muscle car-y type. Well, then again, I mean, I like GTO drop tops, pretty sweet too. I don't know. I'm not really a convertible guy, but I could definitely respect the idea of a convertible Challenger. That would be pretty sweet, actually. Some are saying I don't like the way the Challenger looks without its top. It just, well, yeah, it was never really designed. You know, the proportions are kind of weird. Hey, one thing's for sure, to have a hell of a lot better visibility, at least with the top down. Oh, someone saying not having that A-pillar and the hard top just looks strange to me. Chuck saying Racer X did a comparison with the RT against other cars. Nothing against him, but I have beaten most of the cars in that video. Sovereign saying boosted thought. I don't know. I help me out on that one. Did I miss something? I think I might have missed something. Maybe I missed something about the boosted thing. Oh, boosted thought. Oh, for the 5.7. I don't know if I'd go boosted. Well, look, here's the thing. You guys know that like the car that I would love to build would be a 5.7 small cam, long tubes, and I hate to say it, but yeah, I mean, you could go with like an E-Force. You know, with the cam making about 9 pounds of boost, 10 pounds of boost, and have something that would actually make really good power. I mean, it'd be about a 500 to the wheels on an eddy current dyno car, and I mean, it'd be pretty sweet. I just don't know if I would necessarily go boost with a 5.7 though. I would probably look at 392 intake, you know, something along those lines. See if you can find a Z Automotive controller out there somewhere. Hopefully that is just a temporary thing that they start making that again. And, you know, set it up to where it's really optimize the 5.7. My thing would be optimize the 5.7 with the camshaft. Give yourself the 5.7 that Dodge should have given you to begin with. And I think you'd be in really good shape with that car. Again, you'd be looking at about 400 horsepower to the rear wheels. You'd have something that would be a whole lot of fun, and I think it'd surprise a lot of folks. Plus, it would be a solid mid to low 12-second car, which for a lot of people of a certain age will tell you that's like right in the fat part of the fun zone for these types of cars. So, oh, Sovereign saying, yeah, Racer X gets a lot of hits on his RT stuff, and a boosted project would be good. Yeah, no, listen, it really would be. I would think for me though, I would probably do something along the lines of an E-Force kit. But an E-Force kit, long tubes, some type of a catback, maybe. And I think you would be in really good shape with that setup. And again, with that, you'd be looking at about you'd probably easily be looking at about 430-ish to the rear wheels, and with a whole lot of torque. And what you'd be doing is giving yourself like Hellcat light at that point. And you guys have heard me talk about that combination. That combination is like, it's an honorable mention for cars that I kind of really liked. I just didn't want to see leave the shop. But that car was a RT 6-speed car with an E-Force. Got to tell you guys, that car, a lot of fun to drive. And the guy that owned it is a Go Mango RT. The guy that owned it wouldn't let a flake of dust get on that car. It was the cleanest car I have ever seen. Anyway, driving that thing was really, it was okay. So it was a lot like driving. It was a lot like driving a 392, just with a fatter chunk of torque, like say around the mid-range. So it didn't have a cam in it, but it did have a really good tune with that E-Force. Gotta tell you, really cool car, really fun car to drive. And it made all the right sounds too. Sovereign saying, I think it's sad a Stinger would beat a 5.7. Well, is it though? I mean, Stinger's actually a pretty solid car, and you know, I think it's pretty cool that a Stinger can have an opportunity to be as fast as a 5.7. And you know, let's not forget, there's a weight penalty that you're paying with that Mopar, but you know, Stinger, they did their homework on that car. I've got a neighbor that's got one. It's a white one. It's a pretty car. And it surprises me how good some of those newer type cars really are by comparison. Hill's asking, y'all like the regular Scat or the wide body? Let's see. I don't know. Probably for most guys, I don't know. The wide body is kind of growing on me, but I got to tell y'all something. I don't think I would ever buy one. I'd probably stick with the narrow body. Chuck saying BS, I've beaten 3 of them. Talking about the Stingers, I'm guessing. Sovereign saying it's why I'm leaning towards Scat Packs, good right out of the box. Yep. Yeah, no, talking about that Stinger, you know, there's a lot of cars that are pretty quick. It doesn't mean that the 5.7 is slow because something is faster than the 5.7, whether it's a Stinger or a, you know, 370Z, you know, that type of car, you know what I mean? Those cars, you have to remember, are the top of their own respective food chains. So, you know, I'd be surprised if they weren't at least in the hunt, but I mean, you're not going into that battle unarmed if you've got a well-sorted RT, especially on a tire. Hemi saying, just ran a 1282 in my stock tuned 5.7 Challenger, tuner loaded first tune and ran a 1267. Tuner wants me to reload stock tune and do a pass or two, then load the 93 tune back in and do a pass. Is that normal? Yeah, it's very normal. What he's trying to do is he's trying to see the difference, and he may ask you to data log the two, but to see the difference between the two cars, and, you know, just go tune for tune. He may have changed some things, or he may want to make sure things are cool with the tune that he's trying to validate. So, but yeah, it's very normal. That's what we always do. We always run the stock tune. If we can, we'll run it twice, but at least once, and then we'll start to play with the tune from there. And as a matter of fact, that's how we would track test. A whole lot of people would ask us to track test the car And it's the only way you can really tune the transmission tune. And so it would not be uncommon for us, once every couple of weeks to take a car to the drag strip. We had a set of tires, my set of tires that we used, but take the car to the drag strip and run the thing down the track, and I would be the one that would dial in the transmission tune. So it, made sense to do it. It's the only way you really can do. You can't really do it on the street. And main reason for that is you're up against a predictive shift algorithms that are going to screw with your head a little bit. It'll make them yip a little bit if you don't have the ability to tune the car on the track, and then you take the car to the track. Sometimes they can act a little silly the first time you get them out there. Oh, Chuck's saying 345s are faster than they get credit for. Say he's beating a lot of cars with his, but I know my limits. All cars have them. Of course they do. Look, my truck's got a 5.7 in it. I love driving my truck, and it's fun. It's quick. My work trucks were the reason why I got back into Mopar in a way. It was the 8-speed automatic. It was the 5.7 Hemi. It was the way that my sport model ran that really did remind me, well, wait a minute. I've got my Z06, and I thought, man, that was the C5 Z06. It was getting on my nerves, that car, my God. Anyway, ended up getting rid of that and got my Challenger. So I can tell you that there's a direct connection, no pun intended, but there's a direct connection from the 5.7 to me getting the Hellcat or the SRT or to anything. For me personally, I've got, I don't know, on the work trucks, I don't know, 250, 300,000 miles behind the wheel of a 5.7 powered Hemi truck. Got a lot more seat time with those trucks than I do with the cars, and that's saying a lot. So, Sovereign saying, seems like a 345 would be the minimum trim to get. I just can't get behind a 3.6. I would agree with that, if with only one caveat, and that is if you're into modifying the aesthetics, paint, wraps, lights, rims, sound systems, things like that. The V6 lends itself really well to those types of modifications, but just because they're less expensive and those other modifications can get real pricey real quick. And you don't really need the extra power. But yeah, the only time, for me personally, 345 be a lot of fun to have just as a daily commuter, just buzzing around car. Someone saying, don't get me wrong, the 3.6 is a capable engine. If it was in a much smaller car, it would be a much more capable platform. The problem with the 3.6 is that it is a turd up until about 5,000 RPM, and that's when the thing actually wakes up. So my wife's Jeep has the old 3.8 liter V6. The thing doesn't really turn a whole lot of RPMs, but by comparison to the 3.6, it feels like it's a V8 compared to the V6 down low. It is not even close. And really just in driving the thing in general, it feels like it's got a lot more pep than the 3.6, which is supposed to have an extra 60 horsepower. I don't even know where that power is, because that older engine in my wife's Jeep fits that vehicle so much better. So anyway, I've driven the 3.6 in the Jeeps before, and I didn't really like it. Chuck saying I would never get a V6 muscle car. You can't. They don't exist. The smoke. Grand National. Yeah, GTR is going to jump in there somewhere too. And then Inline 6 guy is going to jump in and go, oh, shoot, Supra, Bara. Yeah, there's always an exception to the rule. I stand corrected. Sorry, saying we're going to buy a 6, get a different car. Depends on what you're using it for. Someone said, I find it strange that there's no all-wheel drive 5.7 option yet. There was. We just don't have it. Were the cop cars all-wheel drive? Never messed with one of those. Yet there's a V6 GT all-wheel drive. There is, for sure. Sovereign's asking, B, how comparable is the 345 to Chevy's 350? It's not at all comparable. The 350, any of the generic like 883 headed 350s, even the LT1s, if you want to really pick the best of the breed, the LT1 would do good to make, it's 365 horsepower on a dyno, like a true engine dyno. A 345, even without the short runner actuator, is going to make over 400 horsepower, I would think. If it's on one of those types of dynos where you're not laden the thing with front engine accessory drive. But the reality is that it's making, if nothing else, it's going to make at least 12% more power right off the bat than even the best 350s that were out there. And look at it like this. I mean, when the 5.7 Hemi came out, you don't even have to compare it to the 350. You can compare it to the 5.7 LS1 that was 300 horsepower. And even then, I get it, all aluminum, but still, the reality is that the 345 Dodge's 5.7 was making significantly more power. Basically, you had Corvette and then some power in your truck. So it's in terms of durability, though. I know a lot of Hemis that have got a lot of miles on them, but you got to remember that the 350, by the time there was a 350, you had already gone through the 260, the 283, whether I'm sure there was a, I'm going to start forgetting, a 262 rather, I'm sorry, 283. What came after that? And then the 350. And then you had all these other variants, all these small block variants from 307 cubic inches to 400 cubic inches. So the 350 had always hung in there, and it's, basically just an anvil of an engine, especially with iron block, iron heads. You're never going to wear the thing out. The 5.7 is a little bit more high strung, but in terms of power and really durability, it's really hard to beat the 5.7, especially the newer 5.7s. Way better. Simon said, I'm assuming the 345 would, it would absolutely have the advantage. Way better cylinder heads. Chuck saying E-Force is sick. Yep. Simon saying 400 horsepower is respectable. Yeah, it is. Simon saying hit the like button. Yep. Hit that like button, fellas. Oh, Summer said, I'm going to quickly see if there's an E-Force vid on YouTube. Yeah, there's got to be a ton of them on there, I would think. Ship's asking about pedal command. Pedal box is really good. I've heard somebody say pedal box was a lot, but they felt it was a whole lot better. And now you've got them where you can adjust them on your phone with an app. So you might want to look into some of those, Bluetooth connectivity. So look into some of those as possibly being an option. Someone saying wide body on 305s. Chuck saying modern red Hemi's beating Hellcats with his modded 5.7. Check it out on his channel. Chuck saying he just beat a red eye. Well, I need to check that out because I'm not really familiar with his stuff. But it shouldn't come as any surprise. Honestly, if you start modifying something, and depending how far you really want to take it and how much money you want to spend, you almost have to accept the fact that it's going to be fast. And you start talking about modifications and it's like, well, yeah, but I've seen some crazy stuff modified and it's crazy fast. And that's kind of what you expect, really. when you start getting into mods. So Mike's asking, curious, is a little whine out of a 5.7 Challenger under moderate high load on the freeway, I guess, is that normal, I guess? It doesn't seem to do it at any other speed, just when the car is at 70 already and then accelerates. A little whine. You might be hearing a rear end whine with that, is what I'm guessing. Sovereign's asking, is that 3.6 dual overhead cam? Yeah. Say that's why it starts to do something at $5,000. Man, like it, just because it's 4-valve doesn't mean it's going to rev high. I mean, my Sequoia didn't rev really high and it was 4-valve. But yeah, it is dual overhead cam. And the problem with it though is that there's no tuning that thing for torque. It's like that engine would have done really well in a car like a Dart. Like that would have been a sick engine for a car that maybe weighed 3,000 pounds or something like that. That would have been awesome. But anyway, it didn't, I don't know. It just kind of got on my nerves, to be honest with you. Let's see. Destroyers in say, Ian, Professor Mason, what's up? Oh, Mike's saying, seems to be from around the alternator area, but it's hard to tell when the car's at speed. I have the Hellcat airbox. Do you think that might be induction? That might be induction noise if you've got a Hellcat airbox. Hemi's saying it's normal. Yeah, if you got the Hellcat airbox, you're hearing it may just be a whistle. I don't know if it's necessarily a whine. You'll get that from the throttle blade actually whistling. You can hear that. Marco is saying, if I buy a Mopar again, 5.7 cam and long tube regular cab truck, beautiful with an 8-speed, very true. X is in, saying, what up, Professor B? Oh, wait, hang on. Got the cadence right, got the arm flex, bald guy with a shade. And these are polarized, so when I do this, everything goes in Technicolor. Saying, I love Mother's car cleaning products, just picked up some wheel cleaner and Back to Black products for the Challenger. Back to Black actually works pretty good. So yeah, Mother's is good. The good thing about Mother's too is that it works pretty well with machine and foam pads. Been my experience anyway. Let's see, Mike's hanging out with Hemi. Sorry, saying my ES350 feels like a dog sometimes. Throttle response can have huge delays and I don't know why. I don't know. Something load-based, I'm sure. Oh, X saying, also the clay bar procedure went great last week. Very cool. I actually enjoyed using the clay bar on the car for the first time. It is kind of cool, isn't it? So X was on the video that I did about detail chat. And we were discussing clay bar and some of the products that I use when I detail the cars. Which reminds me, I got to jump off here kind of quick, guys, because I got to start getting that car ready for this weekend. But one of the cool things about clay bar is that the neat thing about clay bar in your car is that it's instant gratification. Like you can rub your hand and you get that, like, you go, man, you never notice it, but the finish just isn't really all that smooth. It looks okay, it looks clean, but it's not smooth. And you clay bar that thing and get this real smooth, real clean feeling paint, and it's really kind of neat. It makes you want to do the whole car, and it's fun. So clay, I didn't mention this, clay barring is what actually got me hooked on detailing on any level. And I figured, well, damn, if I can clay bar it and I didn't hurt the paint, I mean, I got to be able to buff the thing, right? Because of course you're going to go from something like clay bar to a very powerful hand tool on your paint, because that's how my brain works, because I'm an idiot. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. And so anyway, that's what got me into doing some of the real minor stuff that I really enjoy though. With like fixing scratches and, wet sanding stuff, and trip you out the first time you actually sand your own car. It's crazy. But that's what got me into it, was clay barring, man. And it'll put you in a zen mood. Depending on what kind of mood I'm in, I'll have the music kind of rocking in the background. There's literally no telling what's going to be blasting out of those speakers. but definitely have a lot of fun with it. So cool, man. I'm glad you had a chance to enjoy it. Roy, thank you very much. Appreciate that, man. Saying just popping by to say hi. I have to go to new work shift. Gotcha, brother. We'll watch the rest of the show later, buddy. Great live chat. Man, Roy, thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Got the new work shift. Nice. I tell you what, it's we're talking about detailing, and I don't have the bottles in here. I do still have some of these up here. And hey, X, when you get done with that clay bar, do yourself a favor. Grab chemical guys might be kind of hard for you to get a hold of. The all-in-one polish and sealant isn't bad, but this one should be able to get at any AutoZone or O'Reilly's. The liquid 3-in-1. This is real easy. It goes on super easy. You don't need a machine to put this on. In fact, it just happens to work well with machines. But put this on with just get a microfiber pad, if nothing else, and just put it on and immediately take it off. Work in your 2x3 areas just the exact same way you're doing your clay bar, and then feel how that paint feels after you hit it with that 3-in-1. It'll blow your mind. If you like the way that it felt with the clay bar, messing with just this stuff that you can buy over the counter it'll blow your mind that just how slick that paint will be. But thank you, Roy. I appreciate that, bud. Very cool. Let's see. Chuck saying, I'm sure Don has dropped 30 grand on his mod package. Probably. Destroyer said, I wish I kept my 5.7 at times. My 392 is a money pit for mods. For sure. I know the feeling. Ship's asking, what's the biggest tire for a 9-inch wheel for his daily driven 392? 275/40 is the tire you want to get for it. Oh, X is saying my 5.7 does the exact same thing, hanging out with Mike. Oh, Hemi saying, yeah, I added the Hellcat intake. That's when I heard mine. Yep, you're just hearing that throttle body whistle. And Mike saying, thanks, guys. No problem. That's what we're all here to do, is to help. X saying, sounds good. Yep. Yeah, try that out. I think you'll like it quite a bit, especially after the clay bar. And then we got to get you hooked on actually running the DA over it with some Rupe's products, and that will make you a full-fledged addict on detailing cars, which I do have to get started on this one here pretty quick. So Nuclear Shark Attack. AB, I love that name. Well, I test drove a manual Hellcat. I really liked it. Then test drove a manual 392 Scat, and wow, that car was not nearly as much fun to drive. It seemed to be geared really low. They're geared much more aggressively, the Scat packs are. I like them both. Chuck saying, have a great week, Mopar Maniacs. Catch you on the next show. Thank you, Chuck. We'll see you, brother. Madar's checking in. What up? Got the bald guy with the shades. With the flex. I like it. Summer's asking, how good is ceramic coatings? Really good. Some of the latest stuff is not bad at all. What are the benefits to it? Does it make the car's paint more scratch resistant? Some of it does, some of it doesn't. You got to really watch out for some of the cheaper versions. But some people swear by the ceramic coating, but you really need to go to a professional detail shop to get the really good stuff. I would say that a good clay barring and a good wax will get you about 90% of where you need to be. But the ceramic coating is kind of funny. It'll last longer than waxing. The big thing about ceramic coating, though, is that nothing sticks to that paint. We would have ceramic coated cars at the shop, and we'd use blue painter's tape to hold like cables onto them as we were dynoing. Like you have your lambda, your air fuel meter that you want to make sure you keep all nice and tucked onto the car. Anyway, the tape wouldn't stick to it, so found out pretty quick how well it worked. but it works good. But it depends on how much, if you're really into paying that kind of money for those things. Usually those are a 2-step process, sometimes a 3-step process. Madera's asking, do you think cars will ever get back to under 3,000 pounds with them going electric? No, I don't, not with any real amount of range. Roy's checking out, saying good night, y'all. Oh, X saying, oh yeah, definitely, detailing the car definitely puts you in a chill mood. Thank you again for dedicating your entire show to detailing. Of course, I love that stuff. I'll definitely pick that 3-in-1 product. I just saw it in AutoZone. Here it is again. It's the gray. The product, and you can see it kind of floating around in there. The product is actually gray. You can see the tip right there. Griots liquid wax 3-in-1. Does a really good job. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It's not. It's not as good as the ultra high-end products, but if you're not ever using ultra high-end products and spending the money on them, which you shouldn't do, this stuff will get you 95% of the way there. It's a whole lot less expensive, and it is real easy to work with. Some of these other, like, more notable name brands suck to work with. So get you the griots. This is what I use on my, like, I use a lot of this stuff. I have no problem recommending this, and recommend it a lot for a car that's daily driven, for one that you're going to be, maintaining that finish on quite a bit. The thing is, with some of the real high-end stuff, the finish is amazing, but you don't necessarily get the staying time out of them that you'd maybe hope that you would. Rupee's products, however you say it, are really good about holding their look and their feel. But this stuff's every bit as good, and it works really well for what you'll be using it for. And I love talking about detailing stuff. So anytime there's new products that I try out or test, I'll definitely bring those to you. I enjoy it. Puts me in a real laid back mood. And I mean, you can't get mad when you're detailing a car. Except for when you find new rock chips. So, all right, saying, any new viewers? Oh yeah, if you like what you saw, please hit like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for stopping by. Thank you, Sovereign, for that. Appreciate it, brother. Walter's saying, great chat. My go faster plans are postponed until I hit a deer with my RT. Damn. Was blasting through southern Illinois. If you can't dodge it, ram it. The RT shook itself away, and away we went. Yeesh. Luckily, you're okay, man. X is saying, detailing is definitely addicting. Yes, it is. Oh, and X is hanging out with Knight. Turtle Wax. The new Turtle Wax apparently is really good too, by the way. In fact, I haven't really played with the new Turtle Wax products, but I'd be interested to see how well they work with the machine. Questions coming up. Best 5.7 Hemi cam. I'm NA now, but plan to be boosted in the future. I want something that I can put in now NA and still make some good power, but have to swap it down the line if that's possible. Man, look, it depends on what your goal is and what your idea of drivability is. But, if you're going to go boosted later, I'm guessing that means you're going to go with a Pro Charger. Does that mean you're going to go with a positive displacement supercharger? It's tough to say what your best is, because you're going to be basically working with what goals that you have. But if you stick with something that is, I don't know, in the 218 to 220 range on the intake side, 230-ish on the exhaust side, with a lobe separation angle of around 114, that'll at least put you in a good place for a cam if you wanted to go with a Pro Charger later on down the line. A cam that's very similar to that is the Comp Stage 2 cam. That is 223, 230 on a 115 lobe separation angle, if I remember correctly. So, okay for, being a tweener type of a cam. I would probably say positive displacement would maybe be better with that cam, only because it's going to try to push power way far out with that 115 LSA. X is saying, oh, good, sounds good. Oh, to Sovereign? Oh, cool. Then definitely give it a try. Oh, the Griot's very good. Yeah, it's good stuff. Cranman say, my man, it's been so long since I've been here. Been busy since I'm having my first baby. Very cool. Girl dad. Congratulations. Carman saying Shine Supply has amazing products. Very cool. I always like trying out new stuff too, seeing what works. And my thing is just workability. All of them work pretty good, but they only work well when they are able to be worked well. And if the product's got good lubricity and it wipes up, comes clean quickly, that's all I really need to be happy. The Rupe's products, in terms of putting a luster down, probably number one on the list, and then one of these two would be a close second. This the Chemical Guys all-in-one, and of course that Griot's 3-in-1, which again, I mean, it does do pretty well. Surprisingly good for for what it is. Oh, Sovereign's asking if he tried any of those, Walter tried any of those high-pitched squealing things. Hey, Mike now. KDC's asking, hey, is an E-Force kit on a Cam 5.7 car to the 373 gear too aggressive for daily use? No, not at all. I mean, that'd be a fun car, as a matter of fact. I mean, the cammed part is the only thing that spooks me, because drivability issues potentially, but if you got a fairly mild cam, like a 218, 228 type of a spread with 116 degree lobe separation angle, it would do fine with that blower. A real aggressive cam, the only downside to a real aggressive choppy cam with an E-Force is that from a driving point of view, it just feels like you lose a little bit of that boost response. 9X is in and say, Mr. Mason, what's good? It's all good, man. But, well, guys, listen, we're coming up on about an hour and a half. I've got to wrap it up. I got to start getting that car ready for this weekend. I'll bring you guys details as I can get them to you. It looks like I'll be running Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, at least one hit per day. So be watching Fox Sports 1. At those Spring Nationals, I'll be running the car in Exhibition Street Legal class at the NHRA Spring Nationals here in beautiful Baytown, Texas. So with that, guys, I got to wrap it up. I want to thank each and every one of y'all. Thank y'all very much for the generosity too, guys. I really do appreciate that. It blew me away. Thank y'all. But would not be able to do this without you guys. And with that, though, love each and every one of you guys. Get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. If you're going to send it to a minute, keep your shiny side up. Ray, miss, and love you, brother. And with that, that is a wrap. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Be ready and willing to look for them updates. Ready and willing to look for the updates. You can tell I'm tired. Not enough blood in my caffeine stream, or too much blood in my caffeine stream. At that, we are out. Y'all have a great one. Adios.